Imagine I make a length 5 vector of random integers from 1 to 3, and then I want to ask, what's the probability that that vector is already sorted in increasing order? So first, let's remind ourselves how to make a vector like that. I can do rand I. I said I want the integers to be 1 to 3, so I can just put a 3 here. And then let me put inside of a vector the size that I want. I want a length 5 row vector, so a 1 row by 5 column vector. So here we go. Let's try it again. So these are some examples of length 5 vectors where each entry is some random integer from 1 to 3. And I want to ask the question, what's the probability that it's sorted? So this one was not sorted. This one was not sorted. And we want to use the formula that an estimate for the probability is do the experiment a bunch of times. So here I did it twice, once, twice. Count how many times was the experiment a success. So in other words, how many times was the vector sorted, and then divide that by the total number of experiments that I did. So I'm going to do this inside of a function. And let me do this, how about check PROB for check probability. Input is going to be n for the number of times I want to do the experiment. Output is going to be p for a probability estimate. And I want to do the experiment a bunch of times. I want to do it n total times. So that's a good sign that I want to use a for loop. So for I from 1 up to n. And then what do I want to do? I want to make a vector that is random integers from 1 to 3, so just like before, and 5 total random integers. And then I want to know, is this vector v sorted? So how can I do that? Well, one way to think about it is I can ask, is v, is that equal to sort v? Okay, that's like a question I want to ask. And remember how this equals equals works with vectors. So as an example, let me go back to the command window and let me look at 1, 5 equal 1, 3. So I don't get true or false, I get a vector of trues and falses. So in this case, I get true because the first coordinates are equal, but then a false for the second coordinates not being equal. So if I just want to know total, does every coordinate on the left equal every coordinate on the right? Then one way I can do that is I can put it inside this keyword all. And then I get false. No, they're not all equal to each other. So let me do that here. If v is already sorted, then what do I want to do? Well, then that counts as a success in my experiment. So let me make a variable for how many successes we've seen. So let me start with s equal to 0. And if the vector v that I just made is already sorted, okay, that's what I did here, then I want to increase the number of successes by 1. So s equals s plus 1. And that's basically all I have to do. What's the formula for probability estimate? The formula is number of successes divided by number of experiments. And our expectation is that the higher the number of our experiments, the more accurate this estimate is going to be. So let me save it. And let me go back to the command window and try it. Let me do check probability of 10, how about? So that says 10%. Again, I get 10%. Now I get 0%. And 10 experiments, that's what this input stands for. The input is this n, which is the number of experiments, how many times we do the testing of v. 10 isn't nearly big enough. And a good rule of thumb is that if you want to get, say, 3 decimal places of accuracy, then you want to see the same 3 decimal places a couple times in a row. So let me make it a lot bigger. Let me do 1,000 experiments. Okay, or let me do 1,000,000 experiments. Okay, that's going to take a little more time, but not too much more time. And let me try that again. Let me try 1,000,000 experiments again. So there I got the same 3 first decimal places. Okay, 0.086. Let me try it again. Okay, 0.086, then a little bit more. So this is a good sign that it's probably about 8% of the time that for these specific dimensions, integers 1 to 3, length 5, probably about 8% of the time, or a 0.08 or 0.09, I guess if I round it, probability, so 9% of the time is the vector already sorted.